used my. No, he didn't. I intentionally made it so that it wouldn't be him that used my nat 20.
Oh, that was on purpose.
Or no, my I made the path to the grave. Well, no, it's so there's certain with so the nat 20, like there's certain people that benefit more from it, but path to the grave, like monks are the worst target for path to the grave because their ability is a bunch of attacks, but each attack doesn't do a lot of damage.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The best targets for path to the grave are like Hexblades and paladins.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave me the nat 20.
Okay.
But you didn't give me the path to the grave.
Yeah, because I couldn't, because it was Becca's character was in trouble, and I needed to handle that.
Yeah.
And we're streaming.
Okay, so if we're all good to go, let's switch over. So it's been 8,000 years. When last we left, and this I'm just going to start from the beginning of last episode session. You had woken up in the Kalanga estate, which was that home of the family of dragonborn descendants of the ancient silver dragon. You very briefly went over your findings from the library from the previous night. And Auntie Dreamgaze had a dream visit from one of the younger brothers. After breakfast, you guys sailed to Mapuka, the island you're on now, to the south, and ended up meeting with Captain Diller on the docks. Talking to you and Sumari, he figured out that you were here on behalf of the prince and asked you to look into Moku, the southernmost town. You borrowed 5 horses. Wow, I really emphasize that a lot. Your 5 horses that you guys borrowed. You borrowed 5 horses and started heading there, riding through the night. Short ways into the forest, you encountered large bear tracks and stopped to examine them. The things that attacked you were indeed bear-like, but with massive vicious jaws in lieu of heads, rows of sharp teeth stretching from shoulder to shoulder, not unlike a Zorn. After a bit of a fight, you defeated them and are now standing among their dead bodies. So, what you want to do with them, or what you want to do? That was the recap, unless we need more of one, further back.
No, I was going to try to... Go ahead.
No, you go.
Roger. So I was going to try to see if I can scavenge things off the corpse so we can have some food. And double check before I do to make sure anyone knows if it's edible, so I don't waste my time.
If anyone wants to assist, I would have you do a survival roll.
I'll assist.
Okay, so with advantage. Yeah, the lizard people. Oh, the 12. Okay, so with a 12, I'll say you know that it's probably got meat on it beneath the fur that you could get to. And because you would be proficient in preparing animals like that, you would be able to get some meat, but let's say you wouldn't have confidence about whether or not it would be safe to eat. But as you're preparing it, it looks like meat that you've dealt with before.
Okay, so I'll just take a sample of it, just let people know this is what we actually fought against, and if it's edible later, I can always try to make something up later.
Okay. I'll say, I forget, you have keen sense of smell, right? I forget if your character has that as an ability or not, or as a feat.
Not anymore.
Oh, okay, not anymore. Oh yeah, you did, my bad. So all you do notice then when you get a chunk of meat is that it's a bit deeper red than, okay, so I actually looked this up for meat, so bear with me. I needed to, shut up. I see you making fun. All right, so the meat it's a deeper red than beef, and coarse grained, which I've been told means it's rangy, right? Right? I don't know. Pretend. Just roll with me here.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. But yeah.
Seeing that, I just want to use a quick divine sense and see if these bear things were any of the 3.
If it pings as anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It does not ping as it was undead, fiend, or fey, right? If I remember right. I always forget, sorry.
Actually, no. It's
No?
celestial undead.
Oh.
or
I think it's mine that's that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ranger one I think goes that route, and
Okay.
paladin's more towards the
Holiness.
good and evil axis.
Okay. Either way, it does not ping as good or evil, or divine or fiendish or whatever.
Yeah. What's
Tis-
funny is my channel of divinity affects Fae, but my divine sense can't tell if it's Fae.
Yeah, no,
You're just gambling. Maybe this will do it.
Yeah, mine does aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead.
Is that just active all the time, or is that
No,
something?
I have to spend a spell slot for mine.
Oh, okay.
That's
but
why it
his
does
has
mine.
but the ranger has a much bigger range. It's like a mile.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There's
Yeah, okay.
When we cut his piece for
6
them.
miles.
Yeah.
6 miles in my favorite terrain. If I'm in
Yeah,
my
that's
favorite
right.
terrain.
That's how you guys found the clusters of undead in
Mhm.
that first thing 8,000 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
Does anybody
So,
else
yeah,
want a piece? Anybody? I'll touch them up. Real good.
Arizu makes a point of pulling out an apple and just super slowly biting into the apple. Like a real slow, like Denethor from Lord of the Rings, slow bite into that apple.
Unnecessarily dramatic.
I
Yes.
only eat cooked meat there, doll. I'm not much into the raw meat.
There you go, doll. Auntie would like you to cook her some of that meat.
Well, Auntie, I do appreciate that, but once I find out it's good to eat, I'll be able to serve some up for you.
Okay. I look forward to it, doll.
It'll be my pleasure.
So cute. All right. What else would you guys like to do? You have covered off a chunk.
Yeah, I do want to double check. We had somewhat of a guide that kind of came with us, like my understanding, or just pointed us in the right direction.
It wasn't a guide. It's that this was a defined road, so it was easy to follow. So you're continuing, or where you were was actually like right about here on the map. I hope, is that pinging properly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good,
Is
good.
there
Yeah.
a weird question? Is there any way you can remove the bear thing off the map?
Yes. No. I did remove the bear. I actually
Thank
should
you.
have found the updated image. That was an old doodle of it, but whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So you guys were about here.
Okay.
And you knew that the town that you're heading to is right here, directly west.
Okay.
So
Well, I knew somebody was gonna have a bad day, and it's getting a little late for my old bones, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and lay my head down if no one objects.
Not at all, Auntie. We haven't been traveling that long, have we? We just
it's
running horses.
yeah, no. So you woke up essentially this morning. You were still at the Dragon Estate. You took the boat over, and you were here by afternoonish, and you just rode through. And now it's into the night, probably around midnight at this point.
We've been traveling quite a bit, but we haven't
Yeah, it's been a
riding
long
that
day.
long.
You had a good breakfast, good lunch, but yeah, it's been a long day.
So we're gonna set up camp then, I guess, for the night.
Are we sure there isn't going to be more of these? I mean, it's not that far, and we have horses. There might be a safer place to sleep.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to finding a comfy bed or something. So if y'all think that we can make it there before, without having too much trouble, I'm fine with it.
Time-wise, you are much closer to the village. It would not take you much longer to get there, especially on horseback with a defined road. It's not like you're, trekking through the forests and the mountains. It's a specific road that's been carved out. So
Okay.
if you guys want to continue on that way, let me, oops, nope, wait, got it. Oh, it didn't scroll all the way. Ignore that. Hold on. Wrong thing. That's the right thing.
Ooh, what was that?
Found
what
it.
thing?
I'm
We didn't see
getting a
anything.
vision. I'm getting a very.
I had a
strange
PTSD
vision.
flashback to school, and there was some water that Wiskava went for a swim in, and
A swim is a very generous
a giant
term.
pentagram that I'm insistent meant something, and no one will let me prove that it means something.
You'll get back to that. Don't worry. Your PTSD is not, you're not free of that. Anyway, so where you guys are at on the road is here. So you can actually, once you get a little bit further, you can probably even see the water. So this is obviously, the water and the beaches. As you guys are traveling down the road, you get to probably about here, and you realize, let's see, there is a small house just off the road to the south where the forest ends. As I mentioned, you can begin to see the ocean stretching out over the horizon. It is still night, so everything is still pitch black. Standing between that house and the road is an old Triton man with pale turquoise skin. He's wearing the really traditional kind of linen cloth that you've recognized that the farmers on this island wear. Some do on mainland Ma'aka as well, but it's really common here. One hand's behind his back and the other's clasping a walking stick that he's leaning on really heavily. And he calls out to you and he goes, "Halt! Who goes there?"
Hi.
Our party face is not here tonight. Someone has to step up.
And
My name is Waskava. I am a warden of the wilds on the Greater Island.
if
Up there in the tree is my friend Arizu.
Arizu lets out like a bird call because it's probably really hard to see him, if not impossible.
And then I will introduce everybody.
Yeah, that's a little reminder for Tucker because we talked about it. I realized before you hopped on the reminder of what specifically you were here for. After your encounter with the fiends and everything, Captain Diller sent out scouts from the military to all of the towns on the island, and this is the only village whose scout did not return.
Right. And how long ago was it supposed? Was he or she?
He should have been back yesterday and was not.
Okay. Perhaps you could point us to an inn.
You mentioned, sorry, it's been a second. You mentioned when you introduced yourself that you had something to do with the gods. I heard it.
No, I just said I was a warden of the wild.
Okay.
On the Greater Island. But I mean, she's got signs of Miplay all over her. So
yes, it's obvious regardless.
Yeah.
And Arazu has the symbol of Poimana is prominent as well, right?
If anyone can see me in the shadows where I'm invisible.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
So Waskava gestures to her friend in the tree, and the old Triton looks up in that direction, doesn't see anyone, and goes, "Uh-huh."
That's why I went ahead and
I swear, honey, I swear, honey, he's up there. I'd throw a rock, but I think you'd just catch it and then throw it back at me.
At which point I snap off an acorn or a pine cone or whatever there happens to be and throw it at Auntie Dreamgaze's feet.
All right. We're not quite used to strangers arriving in the middle of the night, much less some as heavily armed as you lot, but you bear the signs of the gods. I suppose I could take you to our priestess.
We would appreciate that. Although right now we're just looking for a bed. Well, beds to lay our head.
We don't necessarily have an inn, but you would be able to get shelter at the temple.
Well, we do appreciate your kindness, but as you can see, we've been traveling for a little while, and we need to freshen up before we meet anybody, especially someone as important as a priestess.
Okay. As you are talking, he's nodding like he kind of understands that. You hear a soft whistle that's coming from. This is the house, by the way. That house to the south, and a young Vaughn with dirty blonde hair kind of darts out and stops partway between the old man and where he had just come from. And when the Triton hears him, he kind of just like holds up a hand to stop him. He says, everything's fine. You can In fact, why don't you just go home for the evening? I'm sure
Nothing to
your
do.
parents are waiting
Move
for
along. Move along. Nothing to
you.
see
Move
here.
along, it's okay.
I wave at whoever it was.
The kid, he looks like, say, he calls him a kid, but he's probably, young teenager. But he kind of looks at you all like confused, but nods, runs back inside and gets, just like a long leather satchel, slings it over his back, and, whistles again and runs around and into town this direction. And yeah, the old Triton says, you are welcome to make camp anywhere you wish, but the only beds or shelter, unfortunately, that I believe we could provide you would be at the temple. The beach to the west would ensure you are undisturbed, or anywhere here in the forest. The villagers would not bother you. But as I mentioned, we're a small town. We don't have an inn.
Well, we had some trouble with some very peculiar bears, so perhaps the beach.
If you'd like. But do you say trouble with bears?
Well, you can call them bears, but they're not bears I've ever seen.
It didn't have
It was
heads.
definite trouble. They were sort of bears.
Huh.
Where their head should be was a giant gaping maw.
He is definitely looking at you guys like you're completely insane now.
Does he have a shadow right now? Like, is the sun behind him, in front of him, directly overhead?
Night, so it's pitch black basically everywhere, but there's light coming from the house behind him, so that's what's illuminating the road. So there's shadow in front of him and
Okay.
beneath your members.
I'm just gonna go ahead and rise up out of his shadow via shadow banishment, and I'm going to offer to share a glimpse of the memory, if he would like, as as the knight errant of Poimana. It is something that I have been gifted with.
He
If he gets scared, awesome.
he startles
It's an odd
back hard.
experience, but it is completely safe. We have all tried it.
Memories, you mean, like in my mind?
No, my mind. You'll just be able to see what I saw.
Mm.
And
No,
like
thank
just
you.
to show him, like I go ahead and stick my finger to the side of my head and I pull out the little blue wispy strip and put it into my pensive holy symbol, and I just offer it forward. All you have to do is look into this and you'll see what we saw.
He actually puts up a hand to shield from looking at it and says, no, thank you. You are welcome to make camp, and we will speak with you in the morning if you wish.
Sorry, your name again?
Where did I have that shit? Hold on. John, but with an A. Hold on. I had it. I'm like, shit, where did his name go?
Well, Mr. John with an A. I'm Darl Mears. It's nice to meet you. But you said you're not used to seeing as such heavily armed people as us. Is there a way that we can get something from you to distinguish us as not threatening to other people? We don't want to scare anybody. We're just here to do a job.
To be fair, I am pointedly not armed.
That is true. And you're on a giant chicken.
Mm-hmm.
All Arezu has is a slightly oversized looking glass dagger.
Yeah, but there are I think 3 of you in a full or half plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be
Someone's wearing your
fair,
grandma.
I'm totally comfortable with scaring the right people.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed appearing out of his shadow in front of him.
I just love the bamfing. It's so fun. He looks completely befuddled and is just kind of like, do you mean like you want a disguise?
I'm not sure if everyone would take kind of that, but if you think it might be easier for people to be happy around us, I don't mind wearing one.
Do you denote guests in any special way as opposed to people who just wander in?
We don't have many who wander in. Tourists tend to come in packs, but not at night. And again, not armed. They usually have a guide. And you don't look to be trying to settle here.
Do you have a
Speaking of-
tourism industry here? That's
Speak-
amazing.
Speaking of
Not as much as
wanderers,
Perfect Island.
has anybody else come? A friend of ours. We kind of got dispatched to find somebody that might have gotten lost on their way here. We're hoping at least they made it here.
At that, he stiffens up and takes a step back and says, I think it would be best if you settled for the night and speak with the priestess in the morning.
Insight check.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
going to do that as well.
What's the insight check? Go for it.
As a master of the insights.
Oh, show me your insightful ways.
Yeah. You think I did?
No.
Tell me your lies, sir.
Okay, so everyone can tell he looks now distinctly afraid of you. Arazu in particular, I'm trying to think of how to word this. So not only does he look frightened of you, he looks ready to fucking bolt just to put some distance between you. Not in the you, Arazu in particular, you're not getting guilt, you're just getting terror. Not again, not in the way of like your Banff scared him, because that
Sure.
startled him. This is sheer terror.
I'm going to go ahead and do the shadow illusion of, Mr. Dwarf, who I have been rather obsessing over, to see if he's been seen around these parts as well.
Just like, does one of
Yeah,
us
like,
smell?
in addition to the scout that we've been asked to track down, who never reported back, we're also looking for an old acquaintance of mine. And I hold up my hand and just little bust of the dwarf appears as usual.
As per usual. So he doesn't startle at the display of magic. And you said specifically the scout, and this is an old acquaintance of yours.
No, I don't know this scout, so I'm showing the dwarf that I'm looking for, the one who was in the various memories and then destroys people's memories.
Yeah.
Because I don't like him.
Fair. So he looks confused at the dwarf, and says, "No, I'm afraid we don't get many dwarves around here. I don't know that man, but your scout, where did she come from? What road did she take?"
I'm not entirely. I mean, the fact that they're a she is nice to know.
We were told it was a male, and they took this road. That's why we came down this way.
A male scout? There hasn't been a male scout. No one's come here.
There has been a female scout.
I think you need to speak with the priestess now.
Now, fantastic. We no longer have to wait until morning. I like
You
your
didn't have to in the first place. You guys were insisting on wanting to shower and sleep before you met her. I'm just going to point that out real quick.
Well,
So
Arizu
he-
didn't hear that from the tree. Okay.
He was distracted finding an acorn to chuck it on.
I'm turning it back on him now because that's what I do.
It is what you do. Fair.
We do
So-
appreciate the haste, but some of us need some sleep. So if you wouldn't mind having us bed down here wherever you want us, and let some of the other ones meet, I think that'd be appreciative of you.
I could definitely use some rest, and I can barely see out in this darkness. So
Then Wiskava and I will go say hello. It'll be a good time.
All right.
Wiskava can say hello. I would recommend Wiskava say hello, and Arizu, you just look intimidating.
Okay.
Never. I mean, between the two of us, she's armed to the teeth and a good foot or two taller than me. At least. I don't
But
even
she's also beautiful. But so
People seem to like Wiskava.
it's a certain charm.
Wow. That was her.
Harsh. Feelings are harsh. So he still looks hesitant, nods, and he lets out another sharp whistle. This one was a different pitch than the one you heard from the kid earlier. And says, "Whoever would like to, please follow me." And he starts walking into town. So if Wiskava and Arazu are coming with, I know it sounds like Doll and Auntie are staying. Where is Jin going?
I'll go with Wiskava and.
And while they're doing that, I'm gonna get some water and grab my
Go
phone.
ahead.
Somebody's got to keep these people out of trouble a
In
little
the most
bit.
defeatist tone ever, I'll go with. In this case, I will say that Becca and Ian are both staying with Auntie and Doll, just for the
Yes,
sake.
having a set up camp.
Yeah, they'll help set up camp, and you guys can set up your watches and whatever.
I do take
Wiskava,
note of the pitches of those whistles.
that's okay. If I knew musical notes, I would share them with you, but I don't know music. So I need for Wiskava, Arazu, and Jin, what are your passive perceptions?
Really high.
I know, but I need to know the
Really
exact
crap.
I was
number.
stalling while my character sheet opens. Okay.
I
Passive
appreciate your
perception of
honesty.
18.
I got an amazing 11.
Okay.
16.
Okay, so Wiskava may not notice this, but Arazu and Jin, I mean, you all notice.
I'm walking in the middle because I just assume.
That's fair. They'll see whatever it is. That's fine. Okay, so as you guys are walking, you do all see this. You see that the buildings here are all clay and wood cottages. The roofs are thatched at a really sharp angle against the strong winds that are coming off the ocean, just to help with longevity. The first few that you pass, these long ones on either side, are completely sealed. The windows are boarded from the outside. You don't see any light inside. And as you get further into the village, you begin to see these more kind of what you expect to be people's houses, actual residence style. They're organized in neat rows. Like the longer buildings, you notice some of them are shuttered closed, but those seem to have some lights on the inside.
As we walk in,
Mhm.
I just make a little flourish with my hands and reach out and cast see invisibility on Jin.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. I can't. It's range self. Sorry. So,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I thought I could cast it.
No worries. I will say the only one who will
I'll
notice
cast enhance ability wisdom on Jin.
Okay, so that will up what would Jin's passive
Gives them
perception
advantage
be?
on wisdom checks.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if
Add a
his
plus
passive
5.
perception would add 5.
oh, okay, so it would now be a 21?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, you see it for sure. So again, Wiskava doesn't, but Arazu and Jin, you guys both notice that in front of one of the homes, this one, you actually notice a young Triton girl collecting books and toys from a blanket spread out in the grass, clearly just left from earlier that day. When she hears the hooves of your horses, she looks up and kind of watches you curiously, but continues wrapping her stuff up. Wiskava, once you see them looking, maybe you would notice, but you would not notice what the other two do, which is that you see a length of rope is tied around her waist, kind of like a harness, and that the other end trails back into the house through the open door. As you guys get a little closer, you hear a familiar sharp whistle, but not from the man, from inside the house. And out steps an older Triton woman with a well-worn sickle in her hand. She's not even looking at the girl, she's just looking at you guys, but she calls out, "Violet, get back inside." And the little girl, quickly grabs her stuff and runs back towards the woman. And, the woman pats her head as she passes and goes back inside and just watches as you guys are passing. But all that happens very quickly. As soon as you're visible, she yells at the girl to come in.
It's nice to meet you, Violet.
The woman is absolutely glaring daggers at you. And without taking her eyes from you, kind of...
I give her my best drow smile.
What is
Arazu
a drow
just
style
says,
specifically?
Wiskava, what have I told you about talking to strangers? You don't know where she's been.
So the woman just continues watching you, looks to the older Triton leading you back to you, and just without taking her eyes from you, steps back into the house and closes the door. Well, with that done, this is the building he is leading you to at the very edge. That is the temple.
one?
The triangle one, the southern triangle one. So he leads you to that angular building at the edge of town, just off the beach, and knocks on the door before he stands back. You hear a bunch of shuffling indoors. What color are your teeth? Yeah, wait, what is a drow smile specifically? Now I'm curious.
I don't know. I was
Drow
going to let you decide
smiley.
what kind of check I needed if I had to make one.
It would just be a
What kind
drow
of-
smiling. It'd
How
just
much
be.
coffee does Jen drink?
Yeah, what kind of impression were you trying to make by
I was just smiling. I wasn't, but
Unless
I
does
mean-
Jin do beetle knot, because then his smile looks bright red.
I don't think so.
Okay. I was like, then I'd have you roll intimidation, but you're good. So you hear the shuffling inside, and the door opens to reveal a very, very elderly Vaughn woman peering up at you and, hello, how may I help you, dearie? The old man just says, we have visitors, priestess. And he steps aside to gesture to you guys.
Hello. My name is Wiskavan. And this is Jen and Erizu. We've traveled quite far. We are in search of a scout that may have come through your town. Although right now we're mostly just looking for a place to stay. We have friends on the beach. But we were told that we should speak to you.
Okay, well, if I can be of any help, I'd be happy to. I'm afraid I don't really have much by way of snacks, but if you'd like to come in this time of night, I could make you some coffee or tea. And she shuffles in and leaves the door open for you guys to follow.
Walk in.
Okay, so as you guys walk in, you can tell immediately that this building is all just one room. There aren't like walls or anything. It's just this big triangular structure. The longest wall, the one that's facing the ocean, as though an observance, is actually made of long slices of glass, which are bracketed in place by strips of metal. The remaining walls are solid, just like all the other walls that you've seen, decorated with I don't know if Jin would know, but definitely Wiskavan and Arazu would recognize really traditional religious iconography versus, that kind of stuff. You can see a thin futon and a pillow in the center of the room where clearly she had been sleeping. And in the solid corner where there is no glass here by the door, there's a little table where she shuffles over, and there's a stack of like thin books, what looks to be a metal thermos, things like that. And she goes and starts fussing to make tea.
Question.
Yeah, answer.
Do Vaughn usually have dark vision?
Not typically, no. Not as good. If they had dark vision, it would just be more like low light vision.
Okay. While she's making tea, I just kind of want to step over to this wall here and take a look at the view, because it's probably pretty amazing at night through that.
It's really stunning, especially with the low light pollution, since there aren't like street lamps and things like that, and this is not a densely populated area. The stars, the water, it's absolutely stunning. The mechanisms attached to the windows would probably not be something you're familiar with unless you want to investigate them further, but yeah, it's just like thin horizontal planes of glass that stretch the whole wall. So she makes little cups of tea, goes back over to sit with the bedding behind her. The Triton sits, a few paces away, but she sets out some cups of tea and gestures for you to sit down with her and goes, so you're looking for, who did you say you're looking for again, dearie?
Well, and I will actually turn to Erizu.
Erizu will smile and sit down cross-legged, like directly across from her.
Okay.
And
Well,
he'll say,
like arm's length away.
yeah,
Okay.
basically, like, just borderline
Way
in
too
the
close.
comfort zone without breaking.
Okay.
like
Like
on the border.
This
Like
is
if
your
either of
bubble.
us leaned just a little bit forward, it'd be invasive.
Yeah.
And Erizu will introduce himself. He's like, I'm Erizu. We're actually here for multiple reasons. Ostensibly, our main purpose is tracking one of the king's messengers and scouts that has gone missing. But the people in the town implied that no such person has come through. I said, in addition, and I hold out my hand and I conjure first the image of the dwarf.
Mhm.
I said, I am personally looking for this being, although again we've been informed from those outside that dwarves don't frequent this place, which is probably for the best. If you see this man, be very afraid. And then I will close my fist and reopen it again and show one of the bears with the maw heads that we faced. I said, and we were waylaid by a handful of these just outside of your town, which is deeply concerning due to their unnatural being and proximity to your village.
We did want to ensure that you had proper protections.
Sorry, I missed whatever you said there, Tucker. A storm just like dropped here. I'm cranking my volume some.
Oh, we did want to ensure that you had proper protections.
So hold on. I need to make a roll really quick. No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not important.
Insight
okay.
check.
Yeah. She's lying.
Well, no, she's insight checking you actually.
And I'm insight checking her back.
Do you want to actually? Go ahead.
Jim
Let's
leans
insight
forward,
check
like
more.
nose to nose, and stares in her eyes.
Okay. So Jin, she is an old lady, but there is a cognizance in her eyes that belies her old age. It does not seem to fit. She seems a little sharper than perhaps she is, which may be familiar. Auntie Dream. So she
Great. We needed another anti-dream gaze.
she takes a second looking between Arazu and Mascava. Jin, you're just skulking in the shadows, just staring at her.
Yeah.
And the Triton is still in the room, by the way, and he hasn't said anything. He's just sitting there. And she looks at you guys and kind of says, or she looks to be considering something. And she goes, all right, I believe I should introduce myself properly then. And with, a little gesture and a mutter, a spell dissipates around her, and it reveals, instead of an older woman, it is a significantly younger Vaughn, a very young teenager, probably only 14 or 15. In the same robes and everything is just sharper, clearer, younger. And the cane that she had been hobbled over with stretches out into a elaborate scythe that actually you all have dark vision, you would see the blade does not seem to be functional. Instead, it's elaborately decorated with religious things, of course. And yeah, so now before you is sitting an extremely young Vaughn, and instead she introduces herself as, hello, my name is Zara, priestess of Panalu and Mada, and spiritual protector of this village. I believe you in your, I don't want to say quest, your errands here, but I hope you will forgive our caution. Things have not been well here for some time, and we do not know who we can or cannot trust.
Do I recognize the iconography on the site?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to look more carefully, you recognize on one side, it's a specific image of Panalu and his drums. And on the other side is Mada in the middle of an enormous, like a tiered rice field, as she's creating multiple musical instruments. And both sides have the typical runes for the verses for those specific gods.
So what specifically has not been going well here that puts you at such measures of security, might I ask, to see if they might be related to any of the quarries that we seek? I don't want to jump to conclusions.
She opens her mouth to speak, and the Triton man, the old man, objects. And he's, priestess, I don't think this is... And she'll raises her hand to stop him and says, perhaps this conversation should be had in private. And he looks like he doesn't want to leave, but she essentially ushers him out, and she tells him, I'll be safe. They will not harm me here. This is a holy place. And that seems to be the thing that convinces him that it's okay. So he steps outside, and she says, just one more thing. She follows him to the door and turns her scythe so that the top of she can press against the door, and again summon some magic, and the interior of the temple around you glows very softly and then fades. And she says, "There. Now we will not be interrupted, and we will not be heard. We will not be seen."
Can we see what she did?
Yeah, if you want to try an Arcana check, hold on. Who would know this? Not the people with you, unfortunately.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna, yeah, the people who would know are not the ones with you. If you want to try and make an Arcana check, you definitely can.
Not like a religious check at all. It's definitely Arcana.
For that, no. You can make religious checks for basically anything else. But the spell she had on herself and the one she just cast on the temple, it's not really high, but it was unfortunately like an 11.
None of us know.
No, Wiskava got it because it was a 10 and up. But yeah, Jin actually no, yeah, Jin got it too. So only Arazi doesn't
Damn
know.
it! The person who asked.
It's pretty obviously a non-detection spell that's just been stretched and kind of embedded into the temple itself. So it's more that she activated it rather than cast the spell from the beginning. So it was clearly designed as part of this temple.
That's quite handy. You can do that and not even lose this great view. And I kind of point towards the.
Arazu leans over towards Wiskava and says, "What did she do?"
Exactly what you said. We have some privacy.
I feel like on the great view, it definitely like off to the side is like 2 people on the beach camping.
Oh, for sure. there's a little tent being set up. Someone's got a fire going.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look, I see Dol.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
Dol. He's making s'mores. David, we should get out there.
He's got his little cookie oven again.
Oh my god, I forgot about the cookie oven. I love it. So she says yes. So, and she goes back to sitting, and she sits exactly where she had been, very close to Arazo. Still, that was her spot, and she sat back down in it. Damn it. Just now we can speak freely. You said you were looking for a scout. Do you know what they look like? Do you know anything about them?
Did we learn anything about them?
Yeah. I don't
No,
remember
you
anything
had
about
been told and outside of that, you hadn't really been given any information.
I'm sure we would have, as a characters, we would have asked some information.
I don't know, because there was significant pauses to wait if anyone wanted to gather that information. But we'll pretend this time that you guys did. You know that it would be a male. It would have been a Triton on this island, and obviously he would have been military. But that would be all you know. So
yeah.
okay, so if you want to share that with her, she looks immediately relieved, but then confused.
But we do hear that you had a female scout come through, perhaps more than a scout.
More than a scout, I believe, would be a better term.
Like a spy, perhaps.
It was odd. So she looks like she's struggling to kind of think of how to put this to words. She just explains there was a woman several seasons ago. She didn't talk to anybody. She didn't stop anywhere or try to buy anything or discuss anything with anyone, and which wouldn't make sense for a tourist. And she came from the west, which now you guys know would be the beach. And she actually points in that direction. And so we thought perhaps a shipwreck or some kind of accident, but her clothes weren't wet, and we never found any remains. There was no wreckage. She just walked through and didn't say a word, didn't respond to anybody, and disappeared back out into the forest to the east. Then that night she came back, and she explained she walked the other direction, but this time she stopped in front of some of the houses, and she didn't respond when we called out to her. It didn't make sense. She just kept walking back out and vanished at the beach. We followed her there, and she just disappeared. But this doesn't sound like who you're looking for. And she gestures to Arazu and certainly did not seem to be your dwarven concern.
What does she look like?
She says none of us can remember. She was wearing black. We all know she was wearing black, but none of us could recall her face. She must have had one. It would have stood out more if she hadn't, but none of us can remember. And then the children started having dreams or maybe nightmares. It's been strange. Anyone who cares to give me an insight check. Oh God, you're not there, are
You
you?
just wasted your nat 20.
He said it was
I'm
interesting.
invited from the beach.
Let's
I
see.
know.
Okay,
No.
so
He's like, I smell a
Interesting.
lie.
Doll
I smell
on
lies.
the beach as I'm imagining setting up camp and cooking some meat, and your insight check tells you Auntie's tired. That
I
is
knew it.
what
I
you've
knew it. That
determined.
explains so much. No.
It's Auntie's
This
tired.
is the cold.
Actually,
He's
around this
upset
point, because
because
we've been
he hasn't
talking
gotten-
about tea, is probably actually like he's been asking if my tea supplies are good. Like I take a sip of my tea and I'm definitely towards the end, so it's like super bitter.
Oh yeah.
Like I might be reusing tea leaves at this point.
Oh, probably actually. So Escava, you don't notice. Arazu, you can tell she's hesitant to share something else about the children specifically.
So Ares is gonna look very hesitant himself, and again he's gonna raise his hand. He's gonna reconjure the dwarf, but instead of a bust this time, it's gonna slowly grow to extend to show the entire figure,
Mhm.
and then zoom in on the dwarf's holy symbol. And he
Mhm.
says, "Has this symbol been appearing to the children?" Which was the inverted.
I remember this is a young teen, so she's not very versed in this, but
That's fine.
basically in that way, almost like gasps and kind of reels back. And what profanity how
That
did
is
you know?
why that is why I seek him. I am Poimana, and I hold memory to be sacrosanct, and he has been laying traps for anyone trying to trace his whereabouts in memory that have been leaving people dead. And
Dead?
that is why I have not offered to look at your memory. I fear that you may have already been manipulated, and I don't want to risk triggering such a trap in a child, having already seen someone die.
Yeah, she when you say that, she actually reaches out and like closes your hand to try and put the image away.
Sure.
And so
I let her close the hand, and the image goes away.
Okay, she goes, please do not, if that is a risk, if you can find the children, don't do that. Don't risk their lives.
So there are children missing as well.
Almost all of them. They had the dreams night after night, and just it seems like it was years ago, but it couldn't have been. It was one by one they went missing, and then all of a sudden there are only a few left, and she looks like she's on the verge of tears, but she can't articulate it. But
Right.
Is
yeah.
anything special about the ones that are left?
In that they're still with us. There doesn't
they
seem
just
to have been a
guarded
pattern.
closer?
Huh?
Were they just guarded closer? Were they less affected by the nightmares?
When you say if they were guarded closer, she kind of like that snorting laugh of when someone's been crying or tearing up and they're trying to hold that back. It shows Violet's mother is paranoid would be the kindest word, but
Well, it's not paranoia if there really is something happening, and it seems like there is.
True. Everyone is on edge. I will say that instead of paranoid, everyone is grown guarded. There are rumors that there's a kidnapper amongst us, or that there's something wicked and fey in the forests. I heard Violet's mother saying that the woman must have been a siren who was luring the children into the waters to, a watery grave, but no bodies have washed up, no remains have been found. It's just not, there's no explanation.
We did deal with a hag not too long ago.
Which,
It may be something similar.
she makes a kind of, like the Catholic kind of the crossing. She will make a holy gesture like that, like to ward off an evil eye kind of thing. It's like, I pray that that is not the case here, but if anything could have been a hag, perhaps that woman.
Are there any cave systems in the nearby mountains that might attract squatters or someone to try and make use of? Or an area that you grew up hearing you should never go close to?
Well, there is a cave system to the north, and the doors are closed, so it's not actually pointing at anything directly, but
Sure.
they'll point towards the mountains, northeast a bit, or more northeast, and says there is a system there that is more labyrinth than anything, but no one bothers to go there. There are no minerals or anything. There's nothing of value there for us.
What is the oldest child that was taken? Age-wise.
Oh, age-wise. Sorry. For some reason, I thought you were asking like how long ago, and I was trying to do the math.
We can go that route as well, but
no, it's fine.
age-wise.
The oldest child that has been taken thus far is 14.
Has anyone older than that reported the dreams or the nightmares?
No, I am the next oldest.
And you did not, and you have not experienced them?
I have not, but I am also not. My training with Panalu and Mada has not granted me the powers for divinity or dreams. I'm not proficient with Poimana's teachings.
Did you personally witness the figure that nobody can seem to remember?
Yes, most of us did, but as I said, I cannot recall the memory.
I don't even remember how long ago.
It must have been several seasons. It couldn't have been more than a year. At the lull, she'll actually pick up a now I'm sure very cold cup of tea and drink a little bit of it just because it's there, something to do with her hands.
Is there a general goods shop that, say, if there was someone able to mask their memory wake, would possibly be using to resupply if they were camping out in caves in the mountains?
If tourists come there, we generally prepare food for the day for them, and they leave before the night is over. They don't travel here really for.
There's not like a dry goods store or anything like that in town.
When was the last people came? Tourist or otherwise?
Yeah. At that, she pauses again and looks very confused. I don't know. And she's just very confused, like the passage of time has gotten warped for her. I know we must have had tourists last spring, but I don't remember them. And she'll explain they have, not necessarily a dried goods shop. It is more kitschy, touristy items, woven or crafted things that tourists would like to take with them, because the only tourists that would come to the southern farming island are looking for the quote unquote rural experience, but not to actually rough it. So they would sleep in the main town, but they would come and visit these other villages for,
it may, and Ayers is going to kind of aside, even though he's not like trying to keep it from her. He's going to say it may be worth stopping at this store, because just because there is no physical memory in one's mind doesn't mean there's not a record of goods being sold.
She'll nod at that. The keeper may have something.
I can't in character go any better than that because that would just be breaking my not prodigious intelligence and investigation skills.
That's fine.
Also, you seem to believe that we would be watched. I mean, you did go through with your spell, which is impressive, and probably not something that was thought of when this house was built. Is it just a precaution, or do you believe you have been watched from a distance before?
Not from before, but it you'll think it sounds crazy perhaps, but it doesn't feel like she ever left. It feels like she's always here. And perhaps it is just we all feel the absence of the children, and despite our searches we've never found them, but it feels as though she's mocking us.
In the realm of mockery, then, I saw another building shaped somewhat like this in the distance. What was that building?
Are you talking about this one to the north here?
Yeah, the other triangle. It's inverted, if you will.
the other half of that square over there.
Right.
That she's oh no, that is simply another house of worship, a gathering place for different occasions. This is for sunrise.
Does another priest or priestess preside there?
No, I rotate between the houses between day and night. I am here for the morning service and there for the evening and other occasions.
That is a very good idea, Arizu.
I'm trying really hard not to keep pursuing that because it's out of character.
Yeah, Java will, because you just asked that. So she will start pointing out other buildings.
Play the wisdom angle here.
And just ask very briefly what's in
each building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to find if there's one she doesn't know.
Right. As you're asking, it unfortunately doesn't become clear. Each of those buildings, she knows the residence or the purpose of it.
What about the boarded up ones?
Those are, and she'll list some of the family names, but when the children were gone, they all moved into one house together. Some believe those are cursed, but if one of these houses is cursed, the whole village is cursed.
How long does your spell last? The one that protects us?
We shall be good for, I should say, noon. Which, considering it's past midnight now, probably. Would you like to rest here for the night? You said you had friends on the beach. They would also be welcome to, take their rest here, but we do have worship in the morning. You are welcome, more than welcome to join us, but
would it be permissible to explore town a little bit, even though it is this late at night? I don't want to cause alarm, but I'm curious as to what might be happening in the night while these dreams are happening because everyone is sleeping. If she is here and is making a mockery of being able to walk among you, it may be that she literally is walking among you while you sleep. And I am quite stealthy.
If you do not think you would disturb the villagers, I would hate for them to liken you to her, considering I do believe you're here to help us. The gods would not have brought you here if that were not the case. We've set up guards, and she'll gesture where John is still standing outside. That is why, they take rotations now that abandoned home has become a guardhouse. But
yes. And memories have already been compromised is the problem. I am quite certain that I would not be noticed by anyone, but that is I'm asking for
This
permission.
isn't a creepy
just
plan
in
at
case.
all, by the way.
Huh?
This isn't a creepy plan at all, by the way.
I will simply ask that you do not enter the homes of the remaining children. Do
What
not.
if the other church, though?
Oh, by all means.
Very well.
If you are blessed of the gods, you should be able to enter without a problem.
One other thing.
Mhm.
You have warded us from sight when you began to realize that many of your townspeople do not remember details. Did anyone work on wards of the mind?
As I mentioned, I unfortunately am too young. I was not taught by my predecessor the ways of Poimana, and our village is small. I haven't been able to travel to meet someone who could teach me. I have been trying with the literature, and she points at the stack of books, which are different.
Yeah.
The legends of the different gods and all of that. I've been trying to teach myself, but
Erizu, do you?
I'm more of a knight errant than a studious priest. I have seen much that was above my ken, and those memories I can share, perhaps they might mean more to her than they meant to me. But I also am still growing in the ways of Poimana.
she nods.
I have ways to see the unseen, but it won't help us if it just slips out of my helmet.
She just looks sad because she can't really help with that. Because unfortunately, I don't know what I could do for that. If you would like to,
when you go on your walk, could I come with you?
It would make us more conspicuous. Actually, you know what? No, I can handle that. Yes, you can totally accompany me. You'll just have to be willing for allowing me to do things to help conceal you so as not to alarm people.
Somewhere on a beach is just Auntie Julian is like, good tea.
Well, maybe she should be dreaming and pointing things out.
Is there any danger with pulling people's memories multiple times?
Sorry, what was that?
Is there any danger when you pull memories if you do it multiple times?
Until I encountered this dwarf, no. But now, I'm leery about doing such if there's any indication that they may have been here even.
Well, I meant more for mine.
From you, I mean, I think we're pretty confident that we can pull your memories at the moment.
Thank you.
all right. Just real quick, flash over. That went a little longer than I expected. Do Auntie and Doll want? I've been watching your little chat. Is there anything in particular else that you guys would like to do from where you're camped out on the beach? You would have seen them all enter. You would have seen the old Triton man leave, and he just is still outside the building, leaning against it. And then,
well, we haven't been chased out of town with pitchforks yet, so they seem to be doing well.
It's a good meeting, successful.
Unless they're gonna grab us, Auntie's gonna go to sleep.
Yeah. Yep. I figured. That's fine. Okay. How about Doll? Is Doll gonna go to sleep?
Well, make sure that camp's secure. Walk around a couple different places. Make sure that everything seems on the up and up kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then start talking to Mary about wondering when he's going to get his robe that he ordered.
Oh my god, I don't know how best to channel in this. I feel like the reaction would just be a arched reptilian eyebrow, and he would return to his journal and keep writing and say, I am afraid I don't know.
Okay. Well, I was also going to offer to take off his armor, or help him take off his armor so he can get some rest. That way he can take next watch.
Yeah, I think that he probably would have gotten out of or accepted the help to be out of his armor to rest in now that you guys completed your fight. And then would, for his watch, he'd probably offer to take the first one in the morning, or that first one in the morning so he could be in his armor and ready to go for the day. But he'll say, we've never been commissioned as tailors outside of family, so I'm afraid I don't know how long it may be, but I appreciate your appreciation of my family's craftsmanship.
It's the least we could do since you are such humble hosts. And then I'll pull out whatever spices I have, and I'll bring out my sleever and start using it as a pistol and mortar to grind some things for later.
Okay. Yeah, sure thing. Are you gonna try preparing that hunk of bear meat now, or are you saving that?
Well, I was going to save it because I was going to ask somebody in the daytime. That way we can also see it underneath the light of day, as well as ask somebody that might have more experience with it.
Oh yeah, you never know what other things may be in the meat.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you can cook, have a late dinner. You guys, I'm assuming, are just gonna set up watches between the four of you and have at it. Is Jin gonna go with Wiskafa and Arazu on this this midnight stroll down the beach? I like midnight strolls.
Oh, I'm not going down the beach. I'm doing
know.
camp.
It's a joke.
Yeah,
I just
Yeah,
find
Jin will go with them.
He's just gonna break into randos' houses.
She did ask that you not break into the houses where the children are. Didn't say anything about the other houses. Please don't kill anyone in their sleep, thanks. Just a
On the
If
way
we do,
out,
we can blame it on the hag.
all of a sudden the entire party goes evil. Realigned. I have to rewrite the whole thing.
Auntie's asleep.
Yeah. Okay. So
She has no idea any of this is going on, even though she's probably she has probably the spells that.
that could help, but
Yeah.
is sleepy.
all right. We'll hit her up on that in the morning.
Okay.
So when we leave, though, before we leave, I want to do two things. I want to first of all ask if I can borrow a quill and some ink.
Mhm.
And I also want to cast see invisibility on myself before we exit the
Okay.
rewarded area.
So she doesn't have a quill and ink with her, but she will, open the door and poke her head out and see that John is still there, and kind of tut at him because she had told him to leave, but protective old man. And she asks him if he happens to have any, and he'll run across the street to a house that you now assume must be his, and come back with a quill and paper for you.
If you can grab two.
Yeah, okay. He'll grab you too. Yeah, sure. Whatever you want. Or maybe it's maybe here it would be like charcoal pencils. Now that I think about it, that would probably be easier. But if you want to travel with an ink pot and a quill,
Yeah.
well,
Well, she does. She wants something that will write on skin.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Yeah. Then if she specifies that, then that's what he'll bring her. Okay. Yeah, you've got all that.
one thing I'm going to ask before we leave is I'm going to take out a little piece of paper, and it's going to have the symbol of his fiance's family crest.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to be like, have you seen this come through your village?
She'll take the paper and look at it and say, no, I don't recognize. Is this a family crest?
Something like that.
Would you?
Arizu literally does laugh.
Yeah, probably. And she'll look confused but say, no, I'm sorry. I don't believe I recognize it.
All right. Well, keep an eye out for it.
Are they, if it's a family crest of sorts, are they friends of yours?
No. He says that absolutely like
As deadpan
as possible. He's like, no.
Arizu looks at her and says, it's one of, air quotes, those kind of families.
Young girl looks confused and goes, okay, I will keep an eye out. If you finish your exploration by morning and would like to join, she'll just reiterate that the morning worship is at dawn. So, yeah. So how would you guys like to go about this? And would you like to go to the beach to
Upon-
check in or drop stuff off with the others?
I guess I'll defer. If they want to hit the beach, we can first. But I was gonna start searching town itself first. But I was going to.
I only got an
water-
hour of sea invisibility.
Okay,
Okay.
then let's exploit that because I have an hour at a time of pass
Just
without trace.
I just wanted to make sure first. I didn't want to assume. Okay, cool.
And
So
I do take my my left gauntlet off and just like throw it, like hang it over my shoulder or something.
Okay, yeah.
And roll up my sleeve so expose my forearmor. And on the like right here at the crook of the elbow,
Yeah.
I write, "You asked for this. Check the pen C."
Okay.
And I show Arazu what I just wrote on my arm.
Okay.
And then I also hand Arazu the other quill and a little bit of the ink. I don't know if he brought 2 bottles. If not, I'll put it into another vial or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Arazu will follow suit
Okay. All right.
and
Well,
then pass it to Jin.
why are you guys so paranoid? It's weird. Will Jin do the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like a bad person for how much I enjoy the paranoia I've fostered
Okay.
amongst you. Okay, yeah. So you write those notes to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it. I saw someone ping this house. Is this where you want to start?
That's where that's the boarded up house, correct?
Yeah, the boarded up houses are pretty much everything from all of these longer ones and this one. The one here where the whistle sound note is, yeah, I'll just move it actually. That's the house that has been repurposed as a guardhouse, but these 6 right here are the boarded up ones that are dark.
Yeah.
Again, the residences, a lot of them were also boarded up, but those you saw small lights inside where people were clearly living. Clearly still living. Oof.
Arazu's definitely more inclined towards church number 2.
Okay. I
But-
mean,
You know, I'm not.
We'll
We have
go in
time.
a circle, so
Yeah.
And
okay.
I am making a very rough map on my arm of every
every place
very
you've been.
slowly as we check buildings.
Gotcha.
So, would you like to describe for me how you're going about this? Like, I know that you're being stealthy. I've got all that into consideration. But what are you doing at this? You go. Let's say you go straight to church number 2.
Sure.
What are you planning on doing there?
Well, I'm looking to see if there are windows or any means of. Basically, I'm going to be going inside, but stealthily.
Okay. This temple is built the same way as the other in that, if you scout around the outside, it's got the 2 solid walls. The longer wall facing the mountains is again a big glass construction.
Mhm. So
and-
it's like a mirror of the other church,
Yeah, it literally is just the flip side of it.
and that's why Arazu's homing in on that.
No, I know. Okay. So you just go up to the door and open it?
If I didn't see anything in the long wall of windows, then yes.
Roll me a investigation or perception, whatever you want.
I'm really glad that turned into whatever I want.
So whatever you want. I'm nice. Nice like that. Okay. So perception. Yeah, no, you don't see anything. You see a similar setup. You don't see a bedroll in there. She must move the futon depending on which one she's staying at.
Sure.
But you see a similar table, stack of books, but that's all you see inside.
Well, then yes, I'm going to go to the door and ensure that it does not appear to be warded or trapped in any way, hopefully.
How are you
I'm
going to?
going to then whisper a prayer and open the door, and the
King
prayer
Lightning.
of guidance.
Okay. How are you checking? Are you just wanting to make an Arcana roll, or are you wanting to check physical check?
Visually and with my hands, and almost
Like,
like,
or you're just gonna use all the senses?
oh yeah, I'm not gonna lick the door.
I know you're not going to.
I have apples.
If you, your only source of sustenance.
Keeps me
Oh.
regular. What do you want?
You know, you say your prayer, you check around the door. It doesn't seem to be trapped.
Then I shall open the door.
You open that door. It is now open.
And then I shall enter the church.
All right, you enter, and it sure looks the exact same as the other one. You don't.
I'm going to make a point of walking around,
Okay.
and I'm actually going to trail my hand along the walls and make a point of touching things, like as I.
And after he gets in, I will follow.
Okay. Okay.
I'm making a point of interacting with.
Yeah. No, you're looking for it, and I get that. I see what you're doing. Okay, as you're going around and looking at everything, nothing seems to be happening. It looks just like the other temple.
Well, I suppose that was just too beautifully easy.
Too simple a solution. Okay.
Would have made perfect sense. I don't know. Well, okay. I guess we'll continue on our trek then. What was that big building across the street?
Oh, that's like a meeting hall.
Oh.
It seems to be like a more all-purpose thing. Like, I mean, there probably wouldn't still be tools outside, but it looks like something that, you know, like a town hall that could be converted for social events, or for, you know, in the case like this, it would be like a large artisanal kind of building where people could come and do woodworking, leatherworking, all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Well, I will defer to, I guess Jin had the next guess on a place that he wanted to scout out.
Who are you talking to?
I think you meant Wisconsin?
Well,
Yeah.
Jin was talking about the boarded up houses earlier. I thought that he was voicing that as a place that he wanted to work towards. We talked about going in a circle towards that, so this was my number one suspicion spot.
As we're like going through, just watch, you know, see if there's any like boarded up buildings in the ones that we're going through and stuff like that.
Okay. Remind me what your devil sight specifically does, and Wiskava, what you have on is see invisibility, yes?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I see 120 feet in darkness or magical or otherwise.
Okay. And how are you taking a path? You were over here. This was where the door was for the church. Are you going back along the road, checking the houses and stuff as you go to get over here to the...
Yeah, might
boarded
as
up-
well.
I would like to stick to the roads like completely, because when
Okay.
we get to that central, my little ringer is not working. Oh, there it went almost. When we get to that central intersection, there, yeah. I'm if nothing stops us before then, I'm gonna drop a primeval awareness.
Okay. Let me scroll back up to primeval awareness because it's fucking everything.
I can redrop it.
Okay, that works.
Don't worry.
I just
do it
didn't want to
again.
do it if something was gonna come up before we got there. I didn't want to jump
Okay.
the gun on you.
This is within up to 6 miles.
Yep. And
Uh,
that cost me a spell slot.
yeah. Let's see. So, what pings for you is aberrations, and I will go so far as to say that it almost feels like the sense you're getting direction wise is like where you fought dem bears.
Dimbers. So there's more
Dimbers.
of them out there clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I will very softly share that with Kava and Jin.
There are tons of bears.
No, I'll just say I definitely sense the presence of more of those things that we fought in the woods earlier. And between us, a fear I didn't want to share with the priestesses, I'm really hoping that the kids weren't turned into those things.
I will also say
That's quite dark, Arizu.
it's like you know me. So
Yeah.
the other thing that
And I
pings,
kind of learned over to Jen. You don't really think that happened, right?
I mean, we did kill those things. We're really dead. The other thing that pings for you, Arazu, is Fiend and to the northeast.
When I hit that sensation, I will just stop in my tracks. Like the aberrations were like, I expected that. That one makes me stop in my tracks. And I'm going to look that way. I'm going to point and I'm going to say, there's a fiendish presence that way. Which means there may indeed be something using caves in the mountains. But we should still vet town. But we should write that down.
Yeah, yeah, it's on the arm.
Sharpie, pass around the Sharpie. Everyone put the X on the back of your hand. No.
This is like the day of the doctor right now. Okay, we've got like we've got tally marks on all of our limbs.
Like I'm running out of room on my arm. He's like lifting up his shirt. Right.
Yeah, I was going to say lift up your shirt and start drawing like around your belly button is the compass rose, and you've got the directions from there. Okay, so you ping for that once you hit that crossroads. That's what you pick up.
I love the drawing.
Where did that drawing? Oh my god, I love that. I love that. So he looks so mad and also sad. One eye is mad and the other one's sad. I love it. Okay, so
like
yeah.
Brutus. I mean,
Hey, Brutus is just always sad. Leave him alone. Brutus
his natural look.
Yeah, it's just his natural look is sad cow. So you guys go and check out the boarded houses. What's your plan? They are boarded up. There's no light or sound coming from inside. What you want to do? Which we'll just say this one first, because it's closest.
do these houses have